Alright, so week 2 of the NFL season is here, and yeah, the Lions playing this week. Got a big game, the Lions home opener this weekend, playing host to the Seattle Seahawks. So, big game against Seattle. For both teams, it's effectively a must-win game. Detroit trying to keep their momentum going and trying to get redemption from last year against Seattle. Seattle trying to avoid an 0-2 start. Even though I don't think an 0-2 start would be the worst case scenario in the world, considering that the NFC is kind of weak this year. I mean, if it was the AFC, then I would probably say that would be the worst case scenario. But the good news is this is the NFC, and the competition's kind of weak this year. But yeah, let's talk about the game this week and everything we need to know entering this game. So, of course, the opening point spread for this line is pretty favorable for Detroit. Detroit is entering this game favored by 6 points. Nearly a touchdown. You know, mainly because Detroit had that big clutch win against the Kansas City Chiefs. And the Seahawks, well, for Seattle, less Seahawk fans say about that game, probably the better. I don't know, it's tough really to gauge how Seattle is. Like, you can't really gauge anything based off one game. And it was not a good game, though, when they got blown the fuck out by the Rams. As the Rams look like they're back to what they were 2 years ago before they got riddled with injuries last year. You know, Stafford looked like prime Stafford last week with the Rams. You know, maybe if the Rams stay healthy, they could possibly get a wild card, maybe. Or be in the contention for it. You know, interesting to see what will happen this year. But yeah, the Seahawks, though, that was not really a good game for the Seahawks, especially the second half. Because the Seahawks, I believe they said the Seahawks only have like 3 yards of total offense the second half, which I found out unbelievable. I was like, how the fuck is that even possible? But yeah, not a good look. But it's really tough to say what the Seahawks are. You can't really gauge anything based off one game. But yeah, you know, Seattle's really going to be looking to come into Ford Field and trying to bounce back after last week. So yeah, in terms of the all-time head-to-head series, Seattle leads the all-time series 12-5, and Seattle has won the last 5 meetings against Detroit. Like, the last time the Lions beat the Seahawks, it was all the way back in 2012. It's been a long time. Yeah, that's how much Seattle has had Detroit's number the last 11 years. Like, the Seattle has just had Detroit's number. Like, no matter what Detroit does, they can never seem to beat the Seahawks no matter what. And of course, you know, the Lions lost to the Seahawks last year in that high-scoring 48-45 game. And yeah, of course, last year, Seattle, of course, this is the first road game for Seattle this year. They were 4-4 on the road last year. And of course, Detroit's home opener. And last year, Detroit was 5-4 at home. For the Seahawks, some key players on offense. Of course, you have the quarterback, Geno Smith, a.k.a. Geno Machino. As, yeah, for the first time in Geno's career, Geno was not complete dog shit. And had a career season last year. He made the Pro Bowl. But yeah, Geno still has a lot to prove for this year, but he definitely showed a lot of potential last year. Like, Geno has a lot to prove, though, especially after last week, you know, to try and prove that last year wasn't a flash-in-the-pan / fluke season, and that he can be a long-term answer. Whether he can or not, yet to be seen. I honestly feel like for the Seahawks, I think Geno Smith's more of a bridge option, and I think the Seahawks are just waiting for the right quarterback to show up before pouncing on it. Other than that, though, the running back duo, they have Kenneth Walker and Zach Charbonnet. Two men, the running back duo there. And the receiving core, mainly the big 3 receivers. Of course, you got DK Metcalf, one of the big top receivers in the league. You also got Tyler Lockett. And you also got the rookie Jackson Smith-Njigba, which will be very interesting to see what JSN could do. On defense, you know, defensive line is anchored by Draymond Jones and Cameron Young. The linebacking and pass rushers, you got names like Darrell Taylor, Uchenna Nwosu, got Devin Bush, and the returning Bobby Wagner as well. In terms of secondary, Jamal Adams, he's questionable for this game with a knee injury. And the rookie Devin Witherspoon is questionable with a hamstring injury. And I was still pretty salty at the draft, during the draft, because originally for the draft, I really wanted the Lions to go get Devin Witherspoon at 6, because I thought the Seahawks were going to take Jalen Carter at 5. And when I saw him take Witherspoon, I was like, shit. That was like one of my big aces in the hole. But yeah, hopefully Witherspoon plays. Like, we'll see, though. But other than that, in the secondary, you got Quandre Diggs, the former line. You also got Julian Love. And you also got probably one of their top defensive players on the squad, Tariq Woolen. So yeah, some good talent on this team for sure. Of course, the head coach is, of course, Pete Carroll. As Pete Carroll showed last year, he wasn't a merchant of Russell Wilson and actually had a respectable season last year. The offensive coordinator is Shane Walden, and the defensive coordinator is Quint Hurt. And of course, for offensive defensive rankings, I'm going to go off of what was ranked for last year, because you can't really use the rankings for this year yet, because we've only played one game this year, and you can't gauge how every team is based off of one game. So that can't do it that way. So, of course, Seahawks offense last year was the 13th ranked offense in the league. They were 18th in the run game, and they were tied for 11th in the passing game. So they were about a mid-pack offense, but they were better passing than running the ball, especially when Geno Smith had that career year. And the defense, still a lot to be desired. Defense was the 26th ranked defensive unit in the league. They were 30th against the run, but oddly enough, they were pretty solid against the pass, ranked 13th against the pass. But their big issue was stopping the run. That was their big issue last year, is they couldn't stop the run. So I think for the Lions to have a chance to win this game and to finally beat the Seahawks, the Lions pretty much need to do something similar to what they did last week against Kansas City. You know, got to establish the run game, like feed Jahmyr Gibbs the ball. Like, for fuck's sakes, you drafted Jahmyr Gibbs with a high premium pick at 12. Use him, for fuck's sakes. You know, feed him the ball and also give David Montgomery some carries too. You know, get the passing game coordinator, you know, try and get some more chemistry in there with Sam Laporta and Amon-Ra St. Brown. You know, hope that Marvin Jones bounces back after that terrible return game in Kansas City last week. You know, defense, got to get some pressure, you know, got to get some sacks this week. You know, they were able to win despite not getting any sacks on Mahomes, because they were able to pressure Mahomes enough to force Mahomes to make some incompletions. You know, got to find a way to get some pressure here, because the Seahawks got two receivers. Two receivers that can 100% burn you in the D secondary. And Jackson Smith-Njigba will too. Because knowing the Seahawks, anytime they get a good name wide receiver, they always turn out to be really damn good. Just look at Lockett as DK Metcalf as living proof. So, just gotta find a way to cover guys like Njigba, Lockett, and Metcalf. Take them out of game. You know, stuff the run. You know, also control time of possession. You know, keep Geno Smith and the Seahawks offense off the field as long as possible. You know, the best way for Metcalf and Lockett to not scorch the defense is keep them off the field, because they can't scorch anything if they're not playing. I think the one thing the Lions do need to do, though, that they didn't do last year, they got to force Seattle to punt the ball, because that was one of the big things that cost the Lions the game last year. Was the Seahawks was that they couldn't generate any punts on Seattle. Like, Seattle didn't even punt the ball once last year. Like, nearly every drive Seattle had the ball, they scored. So, yeah. Detroit just needs to find a way to force Seattle to punt the ball. Like, I think, to be honest, last year, Detroit forced Seattle to punt the ball maybe once or twice or a few times. They probably could have won that game. You know, this is a crucial game for the Lions, a must-win game, because more than likely, depending on where the Lions are, whether it's going to be in division for seeding or even a wild card spot at the worst. Seattle would probably be a team Detroit would have to contend with, worst case scenario, for a wild card spot. So this is like in the hierarchy of the top NFC teams. So yeah, crucial game for the Lions if they really want to establish themselves as a top team in the NFC. And keep in mind, Detroit also a chance to get payback and redemption at Seattle for last year. Because keep in mind, this game a year ago, this game is what kept Detroit out of the playoffs last year. Because Seattle won this game and it ended up being the tiebreaker between Detroit and Seattle for the 7th and final playoff spot. Where Seattle got the spot over Detroit. So yeah, that game went differently. Detroit would have been in it, Seattle would have been out, but that's not how it happened. Detroit's got to win this game. Get the 2-0. And at worst case scenario, get the head-to-head tiebreaker over Seattle. Because we saw last year, even games early in the season can matter and cost a big dividend. That's why you got to treat every game like it matters. Got to go out there and try and win every game, embrace that villain mentality, And of course, Ford Field going to be rocking for sure this Sunday. Especially with the crowd effectively being sold out because I've heard there's only standing room tickets available left for this game. So it's going to be a loud, raucous crowd. And of course, CJ Gardner-Johnson, I heard he wants the fans to wear ski masks. Blue ski masks at the game to fully embrace the villain mentality. I wonder if I could find some cheap ones on Amazon. I 100% would be down with it, not going to lie. I would 100% wear a ski mask, not going to lie. I think it would look nice with my big Lions chain that I got hanging over there with my other Detroit sports chains. But yeah, Detroit just got to find a way to win this game against Seattle. It's a game Detroit should win, and it's a game Detroit needs to win. In terms of prediction for this game, I think it's going to be a decently scoring game. I don't see it being a high-scoring game like it was last year. I think that was just a once-in-a-blue-moon type of high-scoring game. Detroit, they just need to control it. And just not let Seattle fucking run all over them. Defense, like I mentioned, defense got to get pressure, got to force Seattle to punt the ball and control time of possession. But yeah, for this game, not going to be an easy one against Seattle. Because I think Seattle's going to bounce back after last week. Because Seattle's going to be looking to bounce back after last week. And try and prove that last week against the Rams is a fluke. And Detroit, they got a lot of momentum, a lot of hype after knocking off the reigning Super Bowl champs to open the season and spoiling Kansas City Super Bowl party. I think it's going to be a tough game, but I'm going to say Detroit takes this one 27-20. I think it's going to be a decently scoring game. I think it's going to come down to if Detroit can stop the Seahawks and Geno Smith and when it matters the most. Because keep in mind, this game also a year ago, this game is effectively what led to Geno Smith's big-time career season. Was this game, because this game against the Lions last year for Geno Smith, it was literally the best game of his entire fucking career. Because Geno Smith never had a game this good ever in his career up to that point. At least not as a starter. Until there. So yeah, Lions effectively made Geno Smith last year. Lions now got a chance to rewrite that wrong. And I think Detroit can do it. I think they can do it. I think they can pull this off. I mean, get the 2-0. Detroit, they're bound to beat Seattle at some point. That streak's got to end at some point. I think Detroit finally snaps that streak in place. Because I think a lot of Seahawks fans are going to look at the head-to-head and look at the fact that they've had Detroit's number for a while and think it's an easy win. And I think that's going to let Detroit fly under the radar enough and spoil the Seahawks fans' hopes of getting the season back on track. I got Detroit winning this game 27-20. I got the Lions by 7. And let's go win this game. And I know that the Lions want to also break the noise record at Ford Field and get that place loud as fuck. To break that record. And if anyone's asking, no, Seattle does not have the noise record. They did have it. And then they lost it to Kansas City about a couple weeks after Seattle set the record at 137.5. Because for Detroit to set the new record in the NFL, they would have to get that decibel rating up to almost over 142 decibels. To come close to coming to being Kansas City's record. I'm not 100% sure if Detroit can do it, though, but I know damn well the One Pride's going to fucking try like hell to break it. I believe the Ford Field record is 122. I believe that is the current record. I believe it was that Monday night game against Chicago back in 2011 when they set that 120 to 122 record. I think Detroit could break that record, but whether they can come close to the record set by Seattle or the Chiefs, yet to be seen. But the One Pride, I know for sure, the One Pride Sunday, they will try like hell to get to that 137 to 142 range. I'll be really fucking impressed if they actually pull it off. But yeah, anyway, let's go get this W Sunday. Let's go beat the Seahawks and get redemption for last year. But yeah, anyway, I think that wraps it up here. On a Sunday, let's go beat the Seahawks. And let's go get redemption and rewrite the wrongs we had with Seattle last year. I'm out.